You got a stance like a pro? I can't believe I got a stance like a pro. I can do it. Let's do this thing.
Welcome to the studios of OLineSkills.com. First, let us thank you for purchasing this video series on becoming a power player. The game is controlled in the trenches, up at the line of scrimmage, running the football. And now let me introduce my partner, Doc. It's David Diaz-Infante.
And let me introduce my partner, Mark Schlereth. Stink, Stinko. These are nicknames we've had for a lot of years.
Yeah, not only are we going to refer to each other by our nicknames, but you're getting over 20 years of experience in the National Football League. 5 world championships between us, a couple of Pro Bowls, and we've been coached by some of the best coaches in the National Football League.
Stink, and that was good enough to win a couple Super Bowls with one of the lightest lines in the history of the NFL. And that comes down to proper technique, footwork, and powerful hands.
All right, you don't have to be 340 pounds to drive guys off the ball. If you know how to use your hands, if you know how to take the proper footwork, and you know how to sink your hips into guys, you will be controlling the line of scrimmage. And that's what we want to teach you today. So you know what, David? Let's head to the football field and get the teaching done.
Let's go to the field where we get our work done.
Back at the training facilities of OLineSkills.com. David, let's talk about the basics of becoming a power player in the running game.
Mark, and it reminds me of Super Bowl 32 and 33 when we were one of the best running football teams in the National Football League, yet we were one of the smallest. Terrell Davis, MVP of Super Bowl 32, and dominating the line of scrimmage. And how did we do that?
Well, it's all the basics, David, and we're going to break this down into 3 parts. We're going to talk about the basics of the onside running game, the tight drive block, the wide reach block, and the jump hook. Then we're going to go to the backside, the reverse tight drive block, the reverse jump hook, and the cutoff butt block. And then we're going to do your favorite part of the game, Dave.
Trapping and pulling in the running game, the proper technique, proper angles, and it's really your chance to attack and punish the defensive player.
Well, let's start on the front side, David. Let's go to the tight drive block and show everybody the footwork and the hand placement that you can use to make sure you drive that defensive lineman right off the football. The tight drive block, one of the staples of everybody's running game, and it's for driving that ball right down the gullet of that defense. Let's take it step by step and show them what this tight drive block consists of.
Yeah, Mark, the tight drive is one of the basics in the inside running game. It's when you're one-on-one with the defensive lineman, the ball is coming right down your back. Notice Mark's stance, flat back, good angles. He is ready to strike his opponent. Now watch his first step. 6-inch step, he didn't overstep, it's perfect balance. The knee is over the toe. He's in a power position. His hands are ready to strike a blow. His second step will split the crotch as he strikes upward with his head and hands and as he shoots his hips towards his opponent. The idea is to knock him off the ball and up to redirect his energy. And then you bring your third foot to drive the guy down, maintaining your width and stability to make sure you're in a good balanced position as you finish the run block. Mark, let's do that live. And one thing too, through the many years I played football, Mark was one of the best one-on-one tight drive run blockers I've ever come across. Let's see how the best does it. The basics of the tight drive block. You'll notice Mark's stance, first of all, good, balanced, professional stance, a stance like a pro like we talked about earlier. Now you'll notice his first step. It's 6 inches. It's not too long. It's not too short. It gains ground. You'll notice his hands are in the ready position to strike a blow. As his second step splits the crotch, and his target is the inside number to the inside edge of the helmet of his opponent, the defensive player. You'll see his hands strike on the rise as he shoots his hips to redirect the energy of the defensive lineman up and back. And he'll keep his feet chopping, duck-like, working hard into the ground, maintaining proper width so he has good stability in the tight drive block. Mark, the wide reach is another one of the basics of becoming a power player in the running game. And it's used on an outside handoff where you have to reach the defensive lineman, yet you can't give penetration into the backfield. Let's talk about it.
David, let's take it step by step, the basics of the wide reach block. First thing you'll notice as David gets in his stance is he's got the proper stagger, he's got a good balanced stance, his back is flat, his head is up and on the target. Now as David takes his first step, it's a short jab step, gaining a little bit of width. His knee is over his ankle, is over his foot, is over his hip. That's a great power position. Now his hands are ready to strike. The second step, he's splitting the crotch of the defender. Good movement with the second step, not overextended. Base underneath him, hands striking up and out, head on the outside number of the defender. Now as he starts to drive with that wide reach block, he pushes the defender up and out. That's how you gain movement on a defensive lineman. Let's take it in real-time speed, David, to show him what it looks like. First off, stance. It's a perfect flat back. His head is up. There's a good stagger in his feet, and his eyes are on the target. Now his first step. It's a short 6-inch jab step, but it's gaining a little bit of width, allowing David to have his hat on the outside number of the defender. Look at the power that it produces. Now the second step splits the crotch of the defender. It's not a wide step, but his foot, it basically comes underneath him. That as his second step gets down, his hands explode through the defender on an upward motion. That's how you create movement on the wide reach block. Now his third step comes in unison. There's short, choppy steps, one after the other, continuing to gain ground, continuing to work from a low plane to a high plane as he drives the defender off the ball. This is perfect technique by David. Let's talk about the last technique that's going to make you a dominant football player on the line of scrimmage on the front side of any running play, and that's the jump hook. Now, the jump hook is used for wide toss and pitch plays when penetration doesn't matter. The defensive lineman can get up the field, but what you want to be able to do is get to his outside and get him hooked, David.
That's right. Now let's talk about the basics of the jump hook technique on the front side of a toss or pitch play. Now, the basics of the jump hook block, remember the ball is being tossed or pitched, so penetration is never a concern. It's all about hooking the outside of the defensive lineman. So you got to maintain width, and quickness is a key element of the jump hook block. Notice Mark's first step. He gains width, not ground. You can give ground because penetration is not a concern here. As the defensive lineman attacks, he maintains his outside hand to gain control of the defensive lineman. His next step comes to him as he gains more width with his inside hand, trying to control the defensive lineman. Again, now Mark has created the perfect jump hook block to maintain position on a pitch or toss play. Let's look at that in real speed. Notice the stance like a pro. Mark's in a good, balanced football stance, the basics of any run block technique. The jump hook block, its first premise is quickness out of your stance. Notice Mark's first step, losing ground, gaining width, because he's worried about jump hooking the defensive lineman. He's not concerned about penetration. Notice his quickness, his lateral movement, his ability with his outside hand to get to the outside number. His helmet and head are on the outside of the defensive player already. Then you'll notice his second step come with his first step. He's gaining width and losing some ground as he has hooked the defensive lineman. You'll notice how his outside hand works with his inside hand. He pushes with his outside hand and begins to pull with his inside hand. He has successfully jump hooked the defensive lineman. He has out-quicked him from his stance and gained body position to allow the ball to come outside on the pitch or toss play. That's the basics of a jump hook.
David, we talked about the front side techniques. We talked about the tight drive block. Let's go to the back side, the reverse tight drive block. I think one of the things you have to remember is these techniques are identical. The only thing you have to know is you're on the back side, so make sure that you keep your hat inside relationship so that you're actually getting a cutoff, but use the same exact footwork, the same exact drive block techniques that you did on the front side as you do on the back side.
That's right, to maintain that backside cutting lane for the running back. And now let's talk about the reverse jump hook. We talked about the front side. Again, penetration is never a concern because the ball is being tossed or pitched. The only difference is this time you're one-on-one with the defensive player on the backside. So it's quickness out of your stance, it's the same technique with your outside hand, and it's maintaining your body between the defensive lineman and the ball.
Okay, the one technique, though, on the backside that we have to show and that we have to demonstrate is what we call the rip butt block, because it's a very effective backside technique and it can create big gaping running lanes. So let's go through it.
That's right, let's do it. And Mark, remember too, the rip butt block is kind of like a basketball screen sometimes, where you use your body to kind of feel where the opponent is behind you and you create a wall between yourself and the running back.
Now you'll notice David, in his stance, good flat back, good stagger, head up. David's going to want to take a step with his inside foot, 6-inch jab step, head in the inside position to cut off the defender, a good power position. Now David's second step, he's going to cross over and he's going to rip in to the defensive lineman. Now, he does not want to lose this rip. He wants to clamp down on the rip as he continues to drive through the defender and use his back and his butt as a screen. This is the way you create an inside running lane on the rip butt block. Very effective play, and it basically clamps down a defender from getting on the inside. Notice again David's stance, perfect flat back, head up. His first step, a short jab step, power producing step, maintaining inside relationship. His second step, gaining a little bit of ground, but again, keeping it underneath him. Now, as his second step gets down, he rips through the inside arm of the defender, screening him from getting down the line of scrimmage and keeping his body between him and where the running play is going. This technique can be used with a wide 3 technique, can be used on a tight technique, or even an inside shade technique. You've got to rip and use your butt and your back to shield the defender. Let's talk about one of the last basics to becoming a power player, and that's the trap game and the pull game, David.
Yeah, and the trapping and pulling game, there's 2 basic differences. The first difference in the trap game is you're always gaining ground, you're going inside out to the defensive player, and you're attempting to kick him out. In the pull game, you're losing ground and attacking the perimeter using an outside linebacker, a corner on a toss or a pitch play.
And I've got to tell you, this is where David got the nickname IHOP when he played for the Denver Broncos, because he used to just flat pancake guys on the outside of the line of scrimmage. So let's show him step by step what the trap looks like, David.
I always thought there was an opportunity to be a real aggressive player and attack defensive players. They hate when you do this to them.
Definitely. Look at David's stance, perfect, flat back. Couple things I want you to notice as he takes his first step. He's going to gain ground a little bit with that jab step, open and throw that elbow back, but look it, he has not gone up, he has stayed basically the same plane with that flat back and that head down. Now his second step, he starts to gain ground, inside out relationship, and now he becomes a very powerful player as he drives through the inside arm of the defensive player. That's exactly how you operate in the trapping game. Let's show him what it looks like full speed, David. Again, as David gets in his stance, I want you to notice the step, gaining a little bit of ground, and I want you to notice how he stays on a low plane working down the line of scrimmage. The basics of the trap block. Watch David's first step. He doesn't lose ground. He actually gains a little bit of ground as he opens. Now he throws that elbow to open his shoulders up to get him parallel to the line of scrimmage. Now look at his back stays flat the whole time. He doesn't go up to come back down. He stays flat as he starts to approach the defensive lineman. His second step is gaining ground inside out on the defensive lineman as he tracks a path to drive, block, and to kick out the defensive lineman as he follows through. That's a powerful position, and that's a powerful trap block. Dave, we talked about the aggressive nature of the trap block, getting downhill and just root hogging a guy out, what you were so good at. But now let's talk about the pull.
The pull, it's a little bit different. We talked about the pull is used on an outside of perimeter toss or pitch play where you have the ability to lose ground and you're trying to get to the perimeter. Let's look at Mark's stance here. Again, it starts with the stance like a pro. All the basics are there. Now notice his first step. Instead of gaining ground, he loses ground. He's gaining depth and width because he's attacking the perimeter. As he gets going, he crosses over, and now he's avoiding any penetration that may occur in the line of scrimmage, and he starts running and turning upfield to attack his opponent.
Hey, from the guys here at OLineSkills.com, we thank you for purchasing this video. And we know that if you watch it and you study it, you'll become the best you can be, whether it's a player or a coach.
Remember, repeat it, practice it. The techniques in these series will help you become a better player in the trenches.
That's right. These techniques are timeless and they'll be good forever. So continue to review it and continue to go to our website at OLineSkills.com, where we want to continue to produce videos that